Oh my gosh, I'm still not used to my little pony. It's so short. I know I probably could have started from the other end, but I just wanted to start from this one. Ooh, that was loud. Hey everyone, welcome back to my studio. Today I thought it would be a fun day to show you a little bit more behind the scenes of how I carve and prepare my waxes and get them ready to be cast into metal. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen the other day that I kind of want to have a shop update ready for the beginning of next month. I really wanted to make some more self-defense rings because those were really popular last year, and I feel like I never make enough rings in my day-to-day studio life because I kind of struggle with having a variety of ring sizes because if you can't tell, my fingers are like very small, and whenever I first started making jewelry, I pretty much just made rings that fit me. I'm trying to be inclusive. I'm gonna try to make rings that will fit little hands like mine and also different size hands, so everyone can enjoy some rings. That being said, I do have some rings on my website right now that if it's not your size, I can, for the most part, resize them. But for these cast rings and like my self-defense rings, I can't really resize them once they're cast because they're pretty thick and like chunky. So it's kind of best for me to just make it in the correct size from the beginning. And as you can see here, I'm just getting started with like a blank of wax that I bought from Jewelers Row. You can definitely get this online at Rio Grande or probably even like Amazon or whatever, but they sell these that already have a hole pre-drilled for your finger to go through. It's kind of nice because then you don't have to carve away a bunch of wax and just pretty much waste it. It's already started for you. But that being said, I still have to cut it into the pieces I want. This end piece, I'm actually not going to use as a ring because it's like super jagged, and I actually want a flatter piece to start from. So when you're working with wax, you can use obviously files, things to carve away, Dremel tools and stuff. And a really good thing to cut apart big pieces of wax like this is to use a wax saw blade that goes into your jeweler saw frame. So it kind of has this like twisty spiral with teeth pointing down. So it kind of grips all over the wax really nicely and takes away a lot of material. And it's a really good option if you don't have like a bandsaw or something at your disposal. You're able to just kind of like slowly, but pretty easily, cut little pieces. All right, so maybe this is a good point to tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing and what lost wax casting even is. And I'm going to try to explain this in the easiest way possible, but definitely ask questions if you would like me to expand more on any part of this. But lost wax casting is probably one of the oldest metal forming techniques, dating back to about 4000 BC, and it is used to make metal pieces out of wax models. These waxes can be one-offs and only created once, or the maker can create a mold of the object and reproduce it as many times as they want by filling the molds and recreating the waxes. Once the waxes are ready, they are put into a cylindrical flask and a porous, plaster-like investment is poured around the wax model. Once set, the wax is melted out of the flask, leaving an empty space in the investment, which is then replaced with molten metal. This technique is used to make everything from large metal sculptures to tiny components like zippers and everyday objects. And I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but the way that I'm sawing this is I'm kind of starting at the bottom, or any side really. But instead of just trying to cut all the way through this wax, I'm kind of like turning it as I cut it. So I'm not having to go through the entirety of it, because if I did that, I probably wouldn't cut it very straight, and I'd be probably annoyed by the fact that my piece I cut off is not the same thickness all over. So I kind of like mark my thickness around, and then I just slowly but surely twist and cut through the wax. And as always, with your jeweler's saw frame, regardless of what blade you have in there, you need to let the blade do the work. Do not be like pushing forward super hard, because that is A, either how you're going to hurt yourself, or B, your blades are gonna break like all the time, and it's not good. Because what is doing the cutting here is the teeth, and the teeth are pointing downwards. So just keep in mind that you're taking away material on your downstroke, and having your saw frame as up and down perpendicular as possible to your bench pin will give you the most successful cut. See? Not bad. All right, I think I'm going to try to carve 3 today. Unfortunately, I don't think I will have them cast to show you by the end of this video that you're watching, but maybe in next week's video, I'll have them cast and I'll show you the cleanup process. So definitely check in for that. But generally my casting guy doesn't really take more than a few days to get pieces like this back to me. So hopefully if I get these ready, I can drop them off before the end of the week, and hopefully I'll get them early next week so I can show you. These rings, I definitely don't ever want someone to hurt themselves or ever have to use it against another person, but I don't know, especially as a petite woman, I feel a little bit more secure having something sharp on my knuckles if I have to be out and about by myself, especially if it's at night. Like I don't run anymore. I mostly do yoga, but if I were to ever go out running by myself, I always used to carry like my keys and my knuckles, or I would put on a ring that I made that is like sharp and ready just in case something happened, because especially where I live in Philadelphia, things happen, people get hurt, random acts of violence, they happen all over the world, but it seems super prevalent right now in America, and it's just like really sad. And I don't know, if these rings can make you feel more secure and make you more confident about defending yourself should you need to, it's like, that's why I make them. I know it's not the end all be all, and I know it's not probably the best idea to have sharp things on your knuckles, but in this world we live in, better safe than sorry. All right, so now that I have my little blanks cut, I generally like to carve away the inside first before I take away any material on the outside, just because I want to make sure that I get the ring size correct before I take away too much material. Because if you want to have a big ring size and you accidentally take too much material off of the outside, then your ring's gonna be too thin and it might get bent out of shape really easily or break easily. So to carve out the inside of this ring and get it the size I want, I use this tool I found, I think on Etsy, honestly. I'm not positive what it's called, but I will try to put it on the screen if I can find it. But it basically has like a diagonal blade on the side here that you put inside of your your ring and just like gently scrape away the interior. It used to have markings for what size you were carving down to, but it's kind of worn off, and they also weren't always completely accurate. So I usually double check it on my metal ring mandrel. So you pretty much just twist away until you get to the size you want. Keep in mind, I try to flip it every so often because since this is a taper, you don't want your ring to be tapered on the inside too. Like you don't want one side to be bigger than the other side. You want it to be kind of a nice cylinder in the middle, not a cone. And I've definitely found that going lighter with the pressure is better instead of like shoving it into the ring and trying to carve away a bunch. You're probably gonna crack it if you do that. I find that just like gently going in there, carving away a little bit and just like keeping it spinning, it gets really smooth and carves away material for you. All right, so just from that, I am close to 5.5. For our reference, I started at like 4.5. Okay, I think I got in this, yeah, that's about a size 8. I'm gonna go just a little bit more each side. Cool. All right, so here we have it. I have my size 6, 7, and 8. And here you can see I am using a file to slowly but surely carve away the wax until I get the shape that I want for my ring. I will use varying coarsenesses of files as well as some sandpaper to get my wax nice and smooth, keeping in mind that whatever texture my wax has, it's going to show up in the metal. All right, and here we have so far. I've sized the rings and taken off a lot of the material around the sides and underneath so that when you, at least when you put it on now, I'm still probably going to take away more material, but it's at least comfortable, I think, underneath here. So don't have to take away too much more material on the bottom, but now I get to carve away at the top and make them nice and sharp and unique looking. And as you can see, that is just from carving away the middle and a little bit of the outsides. That's how much wax dust I have. Like, can you imagine if I was carving this out of like a block of silver? That would be sitting in my lap right now. And here I go, carving away the outside design, and it's just really fun to see material transform so quickly. It's seriously like I'm carving through butter and kind of just going with the flow and letting the wax inform the design, you know, letting it be organic and fun. And yeah, it just makes me feel really creative. I have my rings pretty much roughed out, and I think I'm pretty happy with the general shape of all of them. This one is like a three spiky boy. I think I kind of call this like a crown ring because it kind of reminds me of a crown, but as you can see, it's a sharp crown. Focus, come on. Yeah. So from the sides, it tapers into a point, and then also in the front, you can see these all come to points. And then I made one that kind of looks like a little kitty cat. Which same thing, it kind of comes to a point on the side and then a point in the middle there. That one's fun. And then this one is kind of like a big blade ring with the sharp corners on the sides. Whoops, it's the next day. Dreyer came home from work and then I decided I was also done working. So I clocked out and we did yoga and had dinner. So it's the next day. I'm actually pretty close to being done with these rings just from what I did yesterday. Pretty much I just want to try my best to smooth out some of these file teeth marks. Even though sometimes I leave them in as like a design choice, I feel like trying to take away most of that texture in wax is definitely the way to go because like I said yesterday, it's just easier to work when things are in wax because everything's super smooth and easy to take away and a lot quicker to work with. So pretty much just going to, I might use a file for some of it just to get me to the spot that I want. I'm gonna switch to a file that has smaller teeth on it and pretty much going to try to smooth out some of those other teeth marks from the big file and then follow up with some sandpaper and try to just get it to be nice and even. Doesn't need to be perfect because once I get it back in metal, I can also buff, polish, finish everything really nicely. So I'm gonna try to do that real quick. If you don't have a local casting company near you, you can always look online and see if you can find a casting company that will allow you to ship your waxes to them, and then in return, they will ship you your cast pieces, which is pretty much available regardless of where you live. So I think that wax carving and casting in metal is pretty accessible as long as you can get your hands on some wax and tools to carve with. So here is what they look like up close, slash up a little bit closer. Yeah, as you see it, you can still see some like directional marks from the sandpaper, but there aren't those huge divots in it anymore from the file that I used. And I'll definitely be able to clean up the surface better and smooth it out once it's cast into metal. But yeah, fun, right? I think that is all I have for you today. I'm going to drop these off at my casting guy and get to work on some other things. If you have any questions, comments, please kindly leave them below. And yeah, I guess I will see everyone next week. See ya.